Bill Pullman and Will Smith facing an alien invasion in Independence Day. John Travolta's close encounter with a mysterious force turns him into a phenomenon. Plus another look at the biggest hits of summer '96.
Aliens invade the skies above Earth, and they're not here on a friendly visit at Independence Day, one of the big summer movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel Ebert, along with John Travolta's new movie, and also a look at how they do special effects in the movies, and also a look back at some of the big hits of the summer so far. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Independence Day, and here's a movie that keeps promising excitement and keeps promising and promising. What it really is about is explosions, real and threatened, as giant alien spaceships circle the globe and target major cities, including our nation's capital, where Bill Pullman plays sort of a weak chief executive.
And what happens if they do become hostile? And God help us.
How bad is it for America? A general played by veteran actor Robert Loggia lays out the situation in a classic disaster film speech.
They knew exactly where and how to hit us.
And our forces?
We're down to 15%. If you calculate the time it takes to destroy a city and move on, we're looking at the worldwide destruction of every major city in the next 36 hours. We're being exterminated.
Like most disaster films, Independence Day spends a lot of time, too much time, trotting out an assortment of would-be colorful supporting characters. Blacks, Jews, gays, a drunk. Here, a computer expert, Jeff Goldblum, and his dad, played by Judd Hirsch, meet with the president in a scene that's pure cornball.
Let's say that you wanted to coordinate with spaceships on different sides of the Earth. I couldn't send a direct signal, right?
You're talking about line of sight.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. The curve of the Earth prevents it. You'd need satellites to relay that signal in order to reach each ship. Well, I found a signal hidden inside our own satellite system. They're using our own satellites against us.
One of the payoffs at Independence Day involves a high-level cover-up. Government scientists have been secretly studying alien spacecraft and corpses for years.
We know tons about them. But the neatest stuff? The neatest stuff has only happened in the last few days. See, we can't duplicate their type of power, so we've never been able to experiment. But since these guys started showing up, all the little gizmos inside turned on.
The first act of Independence Day is really exciting with the arrival of the spaceships. In the second act, the first few explosions are exciting too, but then the story has to juggle all of those goofy characters, and the big finale is just plain underwhelming. I think the script of Independence Day needed another run through the typewriter to make this film truly satisfying as a whole. A mixed review, but thumbs down from me.
Same kind of thumbs down for me, too, because there were a couple of shots at the beginning of the film that were kind of awe-inspiring.
Right.
And then it just turns into, frankly, an old-fashioned 1950s style flying saucers from outer space movie. And the saucers essentially aren't very exciting. The aliens are not very well realized. They don't really move except for one hand. They're not really there in any sense except to represent a threat.
Exactly, and that's the problem. We've always said in action pictures, it's the villains. And here, we don't get to really know them. We don't know anything special about them.
What about the whole complicated deal at the end when they're trying to deal with these aliens? Jeff Goldblum comes up with a plan that most people won't understand at all. And anyone who understands anything about computers will know is completely impossible. So that
if you're carrying it all at that point.
If you're carrying it all at that point, it really gets bogged down. Okay, next movie, and our next film keys right off of Independence Day. This movie is called Special Effects, and it's a new giant screen documentary made for the Omnimax and IMAX theaters around the country. Everybody knows that movies like Independence Day use a lot of special effects, and they can probably even guess which shots are the special effects shots. But how do they do it? This movie goes behind the scenes to watch technicians double-checking their safety precautions before blowing up a large-scale model of the White House in Independence Day.
We are hot and ready. Okay, guys, it's going to be very loud. Fire in the hole.
Remember all those wild animals in Jumanji? Well, I'm sure that audiences suspected that some of them probably weren't real, but a lion was so convincing that I was amazed to discover that it was a complete product of special effects. Other footage in the film covers George Lucas's preparations for a 25th anniversary re-release of the Star Wars trilogy and reveals how models of spacecraft are made to seem so real. The most sensational footage in special effects is a special sequence of the opening of Star Wars remastered for the giant-sized Omnimax and IMAX screens. Special effects is an interesting movie, and I like the behind-the-scenes stuff, but with the exception of the Star Wars footage, I was not quite sure why they needed the Omnimax process in order to make it, since it's basically a standard documentary. It'd be just as interesting, although not as big, on a regular screen.
Yeah, I had a problem with it, too, that some of it was okay as far as it went, but if there's going to be something called special effects, and it's going to be played in movie theaters, it's got to be a whole lot better than this, meaning showing us more stuff, getting more detailed. We saw a couple of movies that have commercial reasons, you know, for Independence Day, that were willing to cooperate with these filmmakers, okay? And I felt that I was seeing that stuff. Let's go back and trace a little bit more of the history of special effects. They do show us some very old stuff that is wonderful to look at, but I think that, you and I know the kind of things that could be included in a movie called special effects.
You can explain it a little more completely, yes.
Okay.
Coming up next, John Travolta plays a character who's been described as Forrest Gump with a brain in Phenomenon.
Uma coisa para ficar melhor.
George Malley, you learned the Portuguese language in 20 minutes?
Not all of it.
Said, I've known George Malley all my life. And if he said he saw a UFO, he saw one.
I didn't say that.
You saw one?
What? I didn't say what I saw.
What did it look like?
John Travolta is struck by an energy force that looks like a lightning bolt from an alien spacecraft, and suddenly he becomes truly gifted, the smartest guy in his small town in the movie Phenomenon, a gentle parable about how we often place limits on others as well as ourselves. Travolta's character, named George Malley, admits to the town's doctor, Robert Duvall, that he's totally confused by his newfound intelligence and curiosity.
I understand right away. I concentrate. And books, I can't stop feeding myself. I read two, 3 books a day.
How smart is George Malley? A government researcher tests him.
Name as many mammals as you can in 60 seconds. Ready? Go.
60 seconds. Well, how would you like that? How about alphabetical? Aardvark, baboon, caribou, dolphin, eel, hippus, fox, gorilla, hyena, ibex, jackal, kangaroo, lion, marmoset, Newfoundland, ocelot, panda, rat, sloth, tiger, unicorn, varmint, whale, yak, zebra.
Some of the people in the town seem threatened, maybe even resentful of George's intelligence, and the doctor lets him have it, establishing the main serious theme of the movie.
And you people have to tear him down so you can sleep better tonight? So you can prove that the world is flat and sleep better tonight, am I right?
There is a love interest in the film, and here's where I think Phenomenon comes up a little short. Kira Sedgwick plays a divorced mother of 2. She's bitter, and she rejects George's advances. But there isn't much chemistry between the 2 actors.
Ah, emergency road service, ma'am. Your truck can't breathe and your idle's too fast.
Sorry. We gotta go.
Where? You're not leaving town, are you?
Nope. We're San Francisco for the day.
Oh, I used to live there. Ask me directions on where you're going. As a matter of fact, ask me anything at all. You could even ask me to come along. I'll show you the sights, the hazards. What do you think?
I think your idle's too fast.
He is absolutely winning in this film, and what recommends the movie is his easygoing charm, his scenes with Robert Duvall, and a very effective concluding bar scene in the picture where we realize just how much this simple guy has meant to us and to his friends. A mixed review, but thumbs up from me on Phenomenon.
I liked it too, Gene, and I like Kira Sedgwick. I felt they did have a chemistry, and of course it's based upon the fact that he first has to win her over because she doesn't want to have anything more to do with guys, and he has to kind of let her know that he can be trusted. But apart from that, the main line of the movie is fascinating, as it shows how this guy becomes more and more intelligent, and the people in his town are threatened, and he's confused. And the wisdom of Robert Duvall in a very, very fine performance is what holds this all together.
And it is in that scene that we saw in the bar. In fact, it is the two bar scenes in the movie that make you recognize you've been with someone, the Travolta character, that you really do like.
Yeah. When we come back, a return look at summer comedies starring Eddie Murphy and Jim Carrey. One worked and one didn't. Why?
I know how you're feeling right now.
Stop it. Don't do that.
I'm here for you.
Don't do that. You're gonna get me killed. Out of here.
Jim Carrey plays the cable guy who is responsible for getting his new friend thrown into prison and then turns into an obnoxious visitor posing as his lawyer. And in our next two segments, we're going to look back at some of the biggest productions of this summer season, talking about some that worked, some that didn't, and why. And certainly, scenes like that one from the cable guy didn't much entertain disappointed audiences who thought they were going to see another madcap Carrey comedy like Ace Ventura and found themselves instead in a very dark and moody story. On the other hand, here's Eddie Murphy, who has disappointed his share of audiences in recent years, but is back with a terrific comedy called The Nutty Professor.
Anything I can get for you? Juice, coffee, rack of lamb?
The joke is on Murphy's character in that scene, but in this scene from the cable guy, the joke is on poor Matthew Broderick, who thinks he'll never get rid of his new friend from hell.
I gave you free cable. What have you ever done for me?
Anything you want, just name it quickly.
Tomorrow night we hang out.
Fine, anything you want.
God bless you. You're too good to me. You really are.
In The Nutty Professor, Jada Pinkett plays the professor's girlfriend who gets invited over to dinner, and all of the adults in the professor's family are played in disguise by Eddie Murphy.
Ain't nothing wrong with having relations. Don't be ashamed of that. Relations is beautiful. When I was young, I used to always have relations. Every night, if a nice gentleman bring me flowers and candy, take me to a movie, show me a lovely evening, then I would take him home and give him hot, lovely relations. Relations.
Why does one of these comedies seem so right and the other one seem, at least to me, so wrong? Partly it's audience expectations. People don't want a depressing black comedy from Jim Carrey, and they do want slapstick and sight gags from Eddie Murphy. But there's another reason, too, I think. Generally speaking, we identify with the lead of a movie, and when the lead is the victim, like Eddie Murphy is as Professor Sherman Klump, we sympathize with him. But when the lead is an obnoxious psychopath, as the cable guy is, then we feel uneasy. He's laughing, but we're not laughing. If audiences have a choice, they'd rather see themselves as the fall guy than the cable guy.
Well, first of all, the Eddie Murphy picture is wonderful, and that I'm going to put as in one piece. It's great. I laughed all the time in that film. As for the cable guy, I'm one of the few critics that actually liked the movie. And let me try and defend it this way. Although the third act gets a little over the top and he's cruel, and I mentioned that in my initial review, I like the serious element in this picture as well as the big laughs in the beginning. And the serious element is, here is a character whose whole life comes out of television. All of his references, the cable guy, his names, his aliases, everything that he talks about comes from television. And he is cruel, and he is mean. And maybe what this film is saying is that's what happens when you sit too close to the set.
Yeah, well, Gene, I think maybe you've described a nice little $1 million picture that could have been made by people who had a little statement that they wanted to make, but I don't think that people are really looking for Jim Carrey.
You're being audience-centered.
I am being audience-centered. That's what we're doing here, analyzing why one of these movies worked and why they... Well, that's not what you're doing, but that's what I'm doing.
And I'm analyzing...
Fine.
I'm trying to say what a good picture.
People are not interested in going to see a movie about an obnoxious, depressing, moody psychopath who does ugly and mean and sadistic things for 2 hours in a movie that they have been led to believe is going to be a comedy.
Okay, and Roger, the fact that the audience won't go with these pictures does not mean, as a critic, that I change my standards in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all, because I think it was a bad movie whether or not the audiences went with them. Okay.
Coming up next, continuing our early summer recap, a second look at the summer's many big action pictures. We'll pick the best so far next. And there have been 5 big ones so far this year, including Independence Day, which we just reviewed negatively. Of the 4 others, I like Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger best. It's a cleanly written story about a protector of federal witnesses. It offers first-rate gadgets, special effects, and a sense of humor, especially when Schwarzenegger and the witness he's protecting battle thugs at a Manhattan zoo. As for the others, I also enjoyed Mission Impossible, even though its story is awfully hard to follow. That we follow it at all is due to the absolute conviction of Tom Cruise playing a character who is trying to protect government secret files. Hey, that's 2 exploding aquariums in a row. Another action thriller, The Rock, which features a fabulous performance by Nicolas Cage, who has a lot of fun with the often uptight action genre characters. But The Rock wore me out early with its literally non-stop action.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best.
Yeah. As for Twister, which came out way back in May, my reaction was the universal one among critics. Loved the special effects, hated the goofy story.
God, why can't we spend a normal day together?
What unifies my likes and dislikes with the season action fair, it comes down to basics, I'm afraid to say. A good story and characters like those played by Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage. That's the thing that makes these pictures work. We strip them all down.
I still can't understand why you didn't like The Rock. And your theory that it wore you out doesn't hold water, because all of these movies are wall-to-wall action, and that one was too.
No.
The Rock really is my favorite of these 4.
Let me tell you why. And it has to do with editing. I'm telling you, Roger, that with every camera shot, every shot within a scene, there's movement. It is exhausting to look at.
But you got used to it in the second hour.
Got used to it? No. Nicolas Cage came on and had scenes with Connery where it was quieter, where he could talk and have fun in dialogue sequences.
I think that
they couldn't clip up all of his words, thank God.
I think maybe you subjectively were in some kind of a mood during the first hour. You were absolutely, totally a blank slate.
Hey, Roger, here's the proof that I'm a good critic. I didn't shut off totally from the picture, and I liked the second half.
Well, I always knew you were a good critic. You're just wrong about the first hour of The Rock, which is very good filmmaking, and the movie as a whole is a very good film. And you're wrong, too, about Sean Connery. He was very good in this film. You keep talking about Nicolas Cage. Yeah? It takes 2 to tango.
Nicolas Cage was doing something original. Sean Connery was being what he can do best and do it very well. Sean Connery. When we come back, a peek at 20 minutes of never-before-seen footage in the new special edition of Oliver Stone's Nixon.
Luxury service in Southern California style, adjacent to Beverly Hills on LA's fashionable West Side. The Century Plaza Hotel and Tower, a Westin hotel.
One of the best movies of 1995 was Oliver Stone's Nixon, a complex portrait of a complex man. The movie played at 3 hours and 10 minutes in theaters, but Stone says his original cut was 4 hours and 15 minutes long. And now, for the movie's release on home video, 20 minutes have been added at the end in a special edition. Some of the new footage is relatively minor, like this scene as the White House limousine pushes through crowds of Vietnam War protesters outside the White House.
Jesus! Get that little pony! Hey, tackle! Go on, get him! Reminds me of my days in Whittier.
But there is one extended sequence that's fascinating, showing Nixon in a very carefully worded exchange with Richard Helms, head of the Central Intelligence Agency.
It involves some old and forgotten papers, things I signed as vice president. I want the originals in my office, and I don't want copies anywhere else.
You're referring, I believe, to chairing the Special Operations Group as vice president.
That's Anthony Hopkins as the president and Sam Waterston as the powerful CIA chief who all but blackmails Nixon with veiled threats about the information he holds. Nixon is a great film with undertones of another great American movie biography, Citizen Kane. It's now available on home video with the additional 20 minutes of footage in the special edition. Now let's take another look at the new movies we reviewed this week. 2 thumbs down for Independence Day, a frankly old-fashioned thriller about an attack from outer space. A split decision for special effects. The documentary about how Hollywood achieves its special effects is playing right now in Chicago, Boston, San Diego, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Jersey City, and will be opening in weeks to come in Omnimax and IMAX theaters around the country. Gene liked it, but not enough to recommend it. And 2 thumbs up for Phenomenon, with John Travolta as an ordinary guy whose intelligence suddenly skyrockets. It's a sweet, heartwarming film.
That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Courage Under Fire, starring Denzel Washington, and Meg Ryan in the first movie to be set in the Gulf War. And also, Harriet the Spy, starring Rosie O'Donnell as a guru to an 11-year-old snoop. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.